right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. Of course, this is the big one. It is earnings season, and it's kicking off in a big way this week with, of course, the biggest tech stocks coming out on Tuesday. Could we see a little bit of a rally in today's session, followed by a potential buy the rumor, sell the fact? Today, we talk about our thoughts on swing trading the markets right now, investing, and of course, day trading together. How's everyone going for this Monday morning or evening if it's here in Australia? I hope everybody's having a good one. Let's give a shout out to the first people joining us. We've got Scobro, Roman, Silverson, Anthony, Bill, Deborah, Chris, Kevin, Steve, Oleg, Michael M, Deb, James, and many, many others. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, if you enjoy our streams, make sure to smash that like button as well. It does help us out. So first up, of course, it's earnings. And I think we're all pretty clear that earnings is serious business, and we know that. There's no surprises. This is big tech. This is the week that does like 40% or some ridiculous amount of the market cap. So that means that after a week like this, usually the S&P 500 is well over halfway through all of the earnings session. And in fact, by August the 7th, we should be somewhere around, I believe, the at like 80% of all of the market cap. We've got the stat coming up later on. So what's going on? Do remember, do post over on Twitter if you're interested. Follow along on Twitter at FX Evolution. But more importantly, you'll be able to actually ask questions over on Twitter as well for the show. And we'll start posting these up a little bit earlier. So if you have like a particular stock that you think is basing, you want to share it with the community, or you think that something's going to rip this week and it's looking good, then share it off and we'll cover it together, of course. What was the big story of last week? A ton of money. And I mean a ton of money went through markets in big fashion. So we had basically huge positions covered in these markets. I think Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Adobe, so many were printing huge portions. And we put it in our weekend show. And basically what it was probably to do with the rotation of the Nasdaq in terms of the rebalance, which is happening pretty much today, I believe. But on top of the rebalance, we had OPEX, which is, of course, happening every third Friday of every month. And that's a big one coming up in September as well. Only 2 months away. There's some massive stats with the September OPEX. And then we have defensives as well. Utilities, healthcare, and staples. Finally seeing some rotation. Let's take a look at those on the charts as we kick things off, because we want to talk about investment and swing trend. There are some things that we know. XLP, XLV, and XLU all did really well coming off the back of last week. And if this continues, it shows us that rotation is well underway in the markets. We've got a breakout here of XLV after a very nice trade. This was, in fact, one of our favorites of last week. We saw some unusual volume trades going into it, and it kept on going. Then we have XLP. This particular one we started to see go. And if you remember, only about 2 weeks ago, we started to see a pickup in things such as Starbucks. Take a look at Starbucks on a chart now. We were talking about it down here during our live stream only 2 weeks ago, 6.37%. Now, to a lot of you, that might seem, well, Tom, I can do that in a day, man. I just trade Carvana and Rivian. It's that easy. It's all about risk reward, guys. 6% on a Starbucks and 6% on a Rivian. Believe me, they are totally different things. But yeah, very large moves, I would say, across some of these staples recently. And S-Bucks doing well there with a potential breakout actually on the weekend with another strong kind of thing. So there could be even further continuation on this particular trade. So XLU, XLV, XLP all going strong. And what that allows us to do is we can go and we can use our favorite combo code, which is, of course, the American consumer, highlighted into a chart. Now, does anyone know what this little thing over here is? Let's see if the chat's got big brain today. You guys know what's up? While we do that, while we wait for your answer, we'll see whether we get any other questions coming in here. Ruben says, at FX Evolution, do all Aussie traders miss New York Open? Well, most people will, yeah, because it happens at 11:30 p.m. and then it starts happening at 1:30 in the morning during daylight savings time. So it gets pretty wild. That's a good question, Ruben. I definitely believe most Australians can't make the US market, but you know, a lot of the setups into the close are actually what you should be doing. So we talk a lot about the close is the key. And the close seriously is one of the most important factors in the markets. You got to remember, retail trade the morning often, and there's a lot of shenanigans that go on. Often the first move is the false move. And then who plays at night? Well, the big guys do. At the end of the day, they finish their positions. We often see some of the largest volume prints happening at the end of the day. So, yes, a few of you said island reversal. Let's see who first said it in the chat. Looks like Dames did it, so very good. And that was a big one there. KC says options expiry over last Friday. Let's see how this week starts. Good point, KC. So, yes, we saw options expiry. We saw huge trades. We have a rebalance of the Nasdaq. All of these things go into why we probably saw such large prints. The question is, does it carry over? And that's what KC is talking about here. So XLY/XLP shows us basically 1/3 of the US economy. This is effectively the health of the American consumer. And you can see the American consumer has been quite healthy in 2023, according to the market. Pretty nice. Then we saw a little switcheroo last week, which is relatively significant. We want to be paying attention to this chart moving forward. So make sure to put your combo in XLY/XLP. We get an engulf candle to the opposite way. Will we actually get a continuation down? Another big indicator I'd be reading off on this week was the potential of the resurgence of the inflation trade. And we're seeing that with yields. Yields went down and then started to creep slowly back up again, as you can see here. US 2-year, do not stop thinking about 5.1%. It's going to be a big deal. And if that happens, then of course things like energy sector could be an interesting one for you to jump in. And there's going to be quite a lot of movement, I would say, through the technology sectors and quite a few others. So what's our general thought process moving forward based on these defensive moves? Well, I think we have to go back to where we are. This is probably 2 or 3 days out of date now, but whatever. You can see actually it's working quite correctly at this stage. We have been dropping off. Are we following the average of the last 7 this is pre-election years? This is just data, as Americans keep telling me. Got to say data, just like on Star Trek. Not data. Pre-election years. Yeah, this is where we get the big sell if it does happen traditionally. Now, have we followed it pretty well? We saw that rally through January. We saw the pullback that we tend to get through that February-March period. Okay, check mark. We saw rallies. We saw stagnation during the April-May period for the S&P, which is where we coiled. Pretty normal. Then we rallied again. Then we sold the OPEX component, which was here. And then we got that summer rally in July, the one that's incredibly statistically likely. I think it was like 18-1 in similar years in terms of bullishness. So everything's played out the way that the data would suggest. The question is now, will we get the sell-off that the data would suggest? 2 to 3 months of potentially kangaroo-style markets. What do you guys think in the chat? I think it's time for us to poll you, because let's see what you guys think about that. And while I put the poll on, let me just have a look here at this sentiment survey. Can anyone guess how many people answered that they were bullish this week compared to bears over the next 6 months? So remember, this was only about a month or two ago, around 25%. What do you think the bulls are at as of the 19th of July, according to the sentiment survey? No cheating, guys. What do you think? Anyone know? I couldn't have guessed it. I'll say that much. Before I knew, I was like, no. Mohammed Al Masari, member for 26 months. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Appreciate that. Hey, Tom, could you have a look at DBC? I know you said you have negative outlook on commodities, but can't you say it's looking positive on the charts? Sure, we can definitely check that out in just a second. And by the way, Mohammed, thank you very much for being a member for 26 months. I appreciate that very much. Let's do the poll and let's see what you guys think. Will the markets turn down over the next month? That's the question here. Will markets fall in August? Yes or no? Simple question. There we go. All right. We'll find out whether you think that is true or not. A few people have been guessing 49, 51, 75% coming from Ruben. 75%. Wow. That's some bullish people there. And let's have a look at what the official data was. And it was, where is it here? 51.4%. Very nice. Look at that. 51.4% people bullish, only 21.5% were bearish, and more people were confused than bearish. So some significant switches there, obviously showing that the sentiment has continued to be just super bullish recently. So if it's going to turn, of course, the next 2-3 months tend to be the shaky ones. Though I would say this, coming into pre-election years, it does have a tendency to run back up through, especially usually a fairly decent Christmas rally. So that's that kind of mid-October rally through November, December. And of course, Christmas or the Santa rally technically happens right after Christmas there. All right, what else did we see? Some unusual options and trade flows, as we talked about before. We saw weakness in our favorite sector at the moment, which is Magma, which is, of course, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Meta, and Amazon. We're seeing a bit of a switch of trend here. I do expect, well, I would think there's a rally here today into potentially a sell after. So maybe a sell if the forward guidance isn't good from the majors. The one I'm specifically looking at is probably not Microsoft, because they're just going to claim everything's great and say AI 500 times. The question really is probably going to be about Google. What are you most scared of, though, in terms of earnings this week? Is it Google? Is it Meta? Is it Microsoft? Is it something else? Let us know in the chat. What are you looking at? I want to see what the chat thinks. What do you guys think? What's the most important part of this? Kevin says, I'm bullish, i.e. on the fence. Yeah. Ruben says, I just want a big short too. Oh, I don't think we're going to see big short too, but yeah, fair enough. And okay, Chaz says, watching SPY for my 445 dip buy trade for a run on 465. Fair enough. Major 4-hour gap fill, last one on the chart till all-time high. So let's just bring that up before we bring up DBC. So I did see some other switches here, but let's just quickly get rid of that. We don't need that. That's just flow. So let's get the SPY up here and have a look at your gap that you're talking about. So if we scroll over, there'll be some kind of, you said 465 gap. So 465, is there one there? Probably, I guess. Let's go 2 hour. Always good to make sure you are aware where the gaps are. So we actually have a gap, not there because we got it done the next day. We got that done, got that done. So it looks like this is probably our last one, which is 460, 4.7. So we'll mark it on the charts. Why not? There we go. Oops. Of course we did that. 1 second. Click the wrong button, guys. All right, there we go. And there we are. So we'll put that one up above and we'll leave that there just so we're aware. Now, we're, of course, nowhere near that at this stage. So I think the thing is that, is this market actually turning? 2 hours says yes. Daily says hell no. General trend is obviously still bullish. So daily says yes. But to me, the big thing is semiconductors. If I look at semiconductors, that's where the weakness is currently. And this is probably the most important sector for markets to really keep rallying, because it's traditionally been the best sector of all of the market for the last pretty much 14 years. If you've owned semiconductors, you pretty much beat everybody. And that's that easy. You know, you want to beat the index, you buy semiconductors. It beats the index. Island reversal. Will this amount to anything? Key level down here. Now, I don't see that many people talking about the semiconductor index, 146.81. Most people are fixated on particular stocks. This is probably one of the more important areas that we need to be thinking about. So from a swing trader perspective, I do think it's pump the brakes, be cautious here. Potentially even look at this one and say, well, is there something more behind it? You are predicting. So what that means is you're predicting that the earnings are going to be forward guidance poor. They've been pretty good so far, but of course the market didn't like Tesla. The market has not liked Netflix. Let's look at both those charts, then we'll do DBC. So first up, Tesla. Let's load it onto the charts here. And you can see that it's continuing to slide here in the pre-market down to 256. Big gap that was left there after earnings, and it just keeps sliding and sliding and sliding. Now, if it does fall further, it kind of makes sense that it might even drop down to the 240s before it find buying support. And another thing you could do is you could try to draw like a fib here, but I would say it's already pretty far down. Usually speaking, I would expect once it clears that, it does pull up at some stage and give some respite. but we just haven't seen it yet. The second one was, of course, Netflix. So if we have a look at Netflix, we put that on the chart. How's it been faring? No better. Dropped 2.27 on Friday, continues to weaken. No significant changes of trend on daily timeframes or anything, but we're looking for that 411. So a lot of weakness here after the earnings on these ones. Let's load up to DBC. Sophia Factor says DGens stay up. Well, I guess that's true. If you're passionate about the markets and you know that the American market's the best in the world, then yeah, you'll stay up in Australia. Talking about how Australians have to trade about 1 o'clock in the morning. Steve says, please look at gold, the stock. Yeah, Steve, we'll check out Barrick very soon. Absolutely. Sentiment looks pretty bullish to me, or bearish to me, says okay, Chaz. Yep. And then QQQ rebalance on Microsoft. Yeah. So there's rebalance across all of the Qs today. And we talked about that about a week and a half ago. And obviously it didn't really have an effect until everything else. SS says trend is your friend. That's correct. Until the very end, trend is your friend is the usual comment there, SS. So the trends are still up. If you wanted to look at being a bear or turning markets, it's always a very difficult thing. We've already seen that get smashed in 2023. In general, like, you are trading basically a rigged market. Where's it rigged? It's rigged bullish. I always say this. It's rigged like 60% of the time to go up. So if you know that, then yes, turning the market is painful and it can take a while. What I think a lot of people here in the chat and a lot of people in general want is they probably want a more usual market. So they just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, something like this, where you get this kind of nice 2 steps forward, 1 step back, mean reverting market, a bit more technical. You never get what you want in markets, but yeah, mean reversion. I think a lot of people want to buy. At least that's what I'm seeing in the chat. That's what I'm seeing in the communities at this stage. Now, what about DBC? And the question was, do I hate commodities? Well, I've been pretty down on them up until probably recently. Like, I mean, obviously I was hugely negative up until June. Or was it June, I think? Yeah, June we turned on these. And the reason why is because we kind of saw a topping of yields. Now, if yields keep dropping off, let's say US 2-year and US 10-year go down, I'll continue to remain relatively negative on basically anything to do with metals. Now, is DBC the one that you asked for, Mohammed? I think it was. It doesn't look like it's commodities. Oh, commodity index. Oh, sorry. Invesco DB Commodity Index Trading Fund. I never trade this. Does it look good? Yeah, it looks like a pretty good base. I don't think I could say it's bad. Yeah, this looks pretty good. Let's have a look at the weekly. Obviously, you're better off trading the patterns, trading what you see versus your own opinions. Just like your opinion is just as valid as mine in the guessing game of the markets. The key thing is that can you find when you have edge? So when you have some kind of statistical edge on markets, do you go for it? Do you actually pick those particular ones and you're patient enough to wait for it? It's why I always write patience, react, don't predict. It's a big component. Yeah, look, this is a pretty big breakout. I mean, obviously copper is weakening, which I guess counter to this. Iron ore has been doing quite well. I think a lot of it's stimulatory. It's time of year as well that it does do better. I would probably expect it to do okay for a period, which is why I stopped doing negative. And then I think it'll go bad. And then I think it'll have an amazing November, December. So I'll probably come back then personally for these types of ones. But yes, that's a breakout. That's a decent base. And if you picked it up somewhere in this level, you'd probably be pretty happy. If it pulls back now to like a 61.8 fib of this, you could probably have a go at it. From a breakout momentum perspective, I'm not that much of a fan, but you know what I mean, Mohammed. Thank you very much again for being a member for so long. OG Gary saying, he says, mad volatility today. Yeah, there should be some fairly large moves. So let's jump on over to the markets and we'll talk about quite a few stocks here. We've got a few things to cover. First up, let's look at copper. It was weakening, tried to drop to a new low. Didn't quite get that new low, so no alerts were set there. But do watch that. If that happens, then of course I would expect commodities in general to be sold, at least for the temporary day. This is not in the favor of commodities at this stage. Watch yields very closely. Let's move over to US 500. What's it doing? Well, it rallied and then it sold and then it rallied. And now it's sitting kind of just slightly positive, about 0.22. Now, I kind of think this is a pretty strong bear area. So I'd say it sees a strong bears sit here, which is around 45, is it 45.63? Is that right? Yeah, 45.63. So I think a lot of people in our private community will have entered some shorts there, just based on what I know they usually do and the type of trade they're doing. Now, where would they target? They're going to target around 45.20 and 4500 with break evens kind of on these lows. Are they going to be successful? Well, I mean, it's counter trend, so it's always hard. That's definitely where the bears sit. You can see the supply here on the left-hand side is quite strong. I definitely like the supply. So there's good supply here. It's been rejected at least once, which is strong. That looks very, very good. It needs a new low in it, though. For people that are entering into momentum style trades, you really need to see this market take a new low, and more importantly, underneath 4,500 for swing traders. That's going to be the most important levels this week. And I believe we're kind of just like seeing a bit of a relief rally here. But remember, a lot of people say, well, if it gaps up in the morning, that's a really good thing. Do you remember what's happened most of this bull market? Has the market traditionally been gapping up all the time, or a lot of the time did it come in with the futures lower and then just rally all day? Let me see what the chat has to say here. Ed Jensen says, first time able to make live stream. Thanks for all your content. You get me through my morning commute daily. Appreciate that, Ed. Thank you very much for listening in the commute. I appreciate that. Aussie says, hope AMC goes to $9. Good luck. Hope it works for you. And SS says AMC is going to attract a bunch of money and then rug pull. That's generally what is happening. Now, if AMC is ripping here, which we'll look at in a minute, that's usually symptomatic of every other time we've seen this kind of play out, where markets are usually near the end of their little runs. Let's have a look at AMC. If it's getting excitement, then people get crazy. 34%. So I'm sure it's some bit of news. Who knows? Maybe it's the Reddit army getting on top of it again. Maybe someone in the chat can tell us, why is AMC ripping today, guys? What's the news here? Kevin says, is this ape conversation? Well, it's more than just ape conversation. What it is it tells us that people are getting just basically gamblery across the market. So if it runs for a couple of days, think about when this happened. Around February. What happened in the market around February? Around December, we got that little bit, November, December. Then we had the famous ones of last year, which we actually used as indicators to tell us the market was peaking off, which was April and March. Look at this, April and March. There's April, March. There's August. There's a little bit of a dip that happens after November. There's our February period. And look where we are right now. So I don't mind that AMC is running. I mean, it will be a pump and dump. It generally is, unless it's a takeover. So it's running on the court blocked AMC dilution. Oh, okay. They can't. Yeah, I can't believe people own this stock. Oh well, I warned everybody to dump the ape stocks a long time ago, and the reason why is because it was always pumpy dumpy. You can never. People's greed will always eventually take over. But yeah, look, that's why it's running. Maybe it's not a good enough reason to get continuation, but again, if these types of stocks keep going and going and going and going for 2 or 3 days, it can often mark the end of that run. We saw that back in 2022. All right, let's get back on track. Let's look at some more of the stocks around the world, and we'll go over to the German market because we're starting to see it find a little bit of weakness. Still around the same level. It's actually quite boring at this zone, but we did see that big rejection candle here. We have no new low. We're looking for underneath 16,000. And you'll see the synergies here with the markets. We've got about 4,500 for the SPY being a critical low zone. We've got 16K for the German DAX. See how the markets are all interconnected. The same thing will happen. The US dollar will hit one of the critical levels. No doubt US yields will also hit a critical level all at the same time. They'll all be kind of similar and will all happen most likely for catalysts such as Microsoft or Google. Kevin says, Tom, you really need to sell a Pumpy Dumpy t-shirt. Yeah, well, I don't know about that one, but we definitely need to. We should have some. We've got some pretty good catchphrases, I guess, that we could put on. The Barbie movie is popular. Is it? What's the Barbie movie get in IMDb? Let me check here. Barbie IMDb. Oh, 7.6 out of 10. That's pretty good. Has anyone seen the Barbie film? What? 7.6. That's pretty good from IMDb. Is that like a troll or something? I would have thought it was like a 3 film. 330 million in opening weekend worldwide. Wow. There we go. I didn't know. This name, my God. Can FOMC this week be a catalyst? It can. So let's look at the news. That name, my goodness. All right. Let's go over to Monday, 24th of July, and we get the flash services PMI just after the market opens today. Then we scroll through a bunch of central banks, Australia CPI. That'll be interesting. See whether it's worse or better. Maybe that will move some markets. Then we get the FOMC statement press conference Wednesday, July 26th. Expected that they rate hike 25 basis points. Does anyone think that there's anything different other than 25 basis points? Press conference this week. Papa Powell, will he do anything other than 25? I say 25. If he did 50, he'd floor me. That's what I think. Quill Owl, $10 donation. Thank you very much, Quill Owl. Appreciate it, man. Always love your support. Thank you. Thank you. Then we've got also Nathan Jacobs, $4.99. DMAC, do you think a small group of people could cause a short squeeze on this given the low market cap of and a 600K short? In general, yes. A small group of people could always cause it. We've seen it before. I mean, Reddit Army was powerful, but yeah, I mean, it just needs size. You need size and you need a certain amount of people. We'll look at the stock a little bit later. So yeah, FOMC press conference, 25 basis points. Then we have advanced GDP. That usually doesn't do anything. Unemployment, whatever, it usually does nothing other than a few points of move. Bank of Japan press conference, that could be interesting, though. I'm not sure if this is the important one. I think it's a month away. And then we've got the big one here called PCE price index, which the Fed uses. But I think it's really just mostly earnings. I doubt the Fed will want to trip on earnings, though Wednesday seems an interesting time. And did you notice, am I correct in thinking this, that Amazon was moved? Am I right there? Am I right that Amazon was moved? Why was it moved? 10 days away now. I'm pretty sure it was meant to be this week. Now it's sitting over here in August. What do we not get to find out about Amazon? Why is it over here? Nathan Jacobs. This hit my target, by the way. Second target, Amazon has hit. Absolutely hit. Yeah. EMAC therapeutics company. Can it get squeezed? Is the question. The answer is, hasn't it already been squeezed? 15th of May, $1.70 up to $3.61. So hasn't it already been squeezed? Look, you can see what happens with these stocks, and they tend to be pretty simple. You can always tell with these therapeutic pharmaceuticals, yeah, market capitalization is only 136 million. So the answer is yes, of course it can be, because the size is not very large. And if you have outstanding, it's not big, it's a big thing. But these squeezes, of course, are getting absolutely dumped very, very quickly. And that's what tends to happen. You've gone straight into the first target. A lot of people are going to see that. Even if they're not TA analysts, they're going to look at it and say, $4, I'm going to take my target. I'm done. Very, very good. Thank you very much for the super chat. But that is pretty much what they're going to be looking at this point. BTC had a nice drop a few hours ago. Could squeeze shorts. Yeah, we'll check out Bitcoin in a second. Let's check gold now, and we'll talk about both gold, the spot, and gold, Barrick. So let's start with Barrick. Now, I mentioned that I liked this a few weeks ago, and I tend to still like Barrick. I think that it is relatively well priced, relatively well priced. Let's put it in perspective. Weekly here, market goes 18th of April 22, drops down to November 22. Gold is super far behind. In fact, off these base closes, it's only 23.91% up. Now we go over to the daily, and you can see it's formed some base. Volumes remained relatively consistent, and I can tell you that's an island reversal, and it has had a decent amount of trade. Even though the volume looks low, it's had some bigger players enter into it. So I'm not sure if it's Barrick or it's just gold in general, but money flow has been more positive there in the last 2 weeks, even though it's pulled back a little bit now. We go over to gold. What do we expect? Well, I kind of think I think it's strong. It's not strong if we go past 5.1% though on yields. It'll weaken. So it'll be strong as long as we stay under 5.1% on yields, in my opinion. And I'm kind of hoping it goes down to around 1940. I think that could be a very interesting structure. And when we go through gold stocks, which is GDX as a good kind of one, gold miners, they've pulled back correctly. So they've pulled back better than I think the spot. Looking for them a little bit further down, maybe correct that gap. But yeah, interesting stuff here for gold trades. Bad week candle points towards further selling, but I do think there's some nice areas here. Nemesis08 says, need to be watching potential UPS strike, could have major ramifications. Chris says, BTC miners worth buying the dip, ? I don't like any of the miners, but BT, CIFR, whatever that is, HUT, etc. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the BTC miners. I just always would just go for Bitcoin itself. Though miners have done better as a percentage recently. Now, let's jump on over to Bitcoin because as you correctly said, fairly large move last couple of hours here. Bitcoin breaking down out of our little range. So we had a trap between the resistance high and the lows. We took the lows here into today's session. This is pretty much one of the more volatile points because, of course, we've finally broken through. Now, one of two things are going to happen, and you're not going to like it. You're going to say, well, Tom, one of three things can always happen. Go sideways, go up, go down. If this did reject, though, and then cleaned up 30,400, I reckon rocket ship. Rocket ship. Then you can say moon time. That would mean it's probably a false break and fairly large deal. Now, that's, of course, being reactionary, so you don't really care what's happening right now until that occurs. That's a pretty consistent style trade, by the way, if you do take those off these coils. If this is a real break, though, next level's 28,000 for it if you're in the shorts at this stage. And it doesn't, it could stop in here. It's possible, but 28,000 would be more likely. So yeah, at this point, I guess Bitcoin looks kind of weak. 28,000 seems possible. We could chuck a fib on it too, just to see if that would be a little bit lower. Yeah, so that'd be a 50% style fib, I think. Interesting. Very interesting. I like to see tomorrow on this one. I don't really want to short Bitcoin at the moment. I'm actually going to get bullish on it later on this year, my own personal opinion. And I don't know if I want to trade it here, though. Very specific. I think you got to set up Bitcoin really, really well. What do you think about the DAX 30? We did DAX 40 before, Rootman. I think that 16,000 is the key level for it. All right, let's jump on a couple of stocks. Asif says here, what do you think about AMD? Absolutely, man. Let's cover that. Rick Moran says up, sideways, or down. Pretty much, man. All right, let's jump on over to AMD. Now, AMD had some big trades on it, and I mean big. And they were positioned in a way that made me think that someone was selling it. Okay, I'll just be real. I've said this in the private community, in the macro, and I'll say it here. There were large trades that went through in here. There were also some randomly large trades in this point and this point here. Now, if we go over to a daily, often people say that AMD starts it. And what I mean by that, and this is why we're looking at AMD here, AMD starts it because if we think of the times when markets actually sold off, of course, we had What period? We had January of 22. AMD was already weakening before that. Okay. It's like a canary, the canary AMD canary. Then we go over here and we don't get much of a rally during that March rally, but we did see one. Here's the August rally. And of course, it starts selling a little bit earlier in August as well than the rest of the market. Here's the March. Now, here's the March sell off. And here's that Feb point where it actually sold off early and then recovered faster as well. So, yeah, AMD setting up very strangely, as is Google. So earnings is 8 days away. New low would be incredibly significant for AMD. Most people are pundits on the bull side here. Fighting it is always hard. If we go to Google, again, very similar style setup. Big trades going through this area and here. Big trades in here. Nice tweezer trade. If anyone got that, well done. This is a good island into a nice tweezer island reversal. And it's tough to tell. It's waiting earnings. But if we break down, I think we're going to 106, 105. I've gotten a bit of work down here. I think there's a bit of work, a bit of confluence sitting around 106 for Google. And I wouldn't be surprised at all for it to drop that much. In fact, if we go back over to this chart here, we refresh 1 month performance. Did you know that Google is actually down on the 1 month? Look at the rest of the market. Has Google been your best return? In fact, has tech been your best return? Arguably, no. Banks have done better. That's rotation. Usually, this is the time when banks start to do better, and that tends to be the rotation for a bull market. We've got better movement in healthcare stocks. Costco, big transaction on there on Friday as well. So yeah, Amazon, Tesla, Google, Meta might seem like they're going up a lot. Month on month, not really. Paul says, Tom, you never mentioned the pound. Will this affect markets? Sterling down to a quarter of a cent today to 128. Yeah, look, I know a lot of people talk about the pound. We'll go to the dollar now, I guess, in just general. Let's have a look at the US dollar first. So US dollar continues to strengthen, actually hit our first little targeting zone here. So I expect a little bit of weakness here off this base. Beautiful little base here. So I can see why scalpers may have tried that. Mark underneath, that could be a turn point for further shorts if you're looking for shorts. I suspect, though, that the dollar may strengthen further into around 101.65 from my analysis. Let's have a look at the pound US dollar that you're all talking about. It's loaded up on the chart. Now, the reason I don't tend to talk about the pound too much, I assume this is what you're talking about here, is predominantly that it's very hard to figure out how it gives you edge. So a question I ask myself, and I think we all do out there, well, actually most of it don't ask this question, is we look at an indicator and we say, that's cool. That's really interesting. That's cool. And you tend to watch a lot of these things. And you've watched my show. You've watched everybody's shows out there probably. And what you'll find is that most shows just bring random stats in. Now, I do too. Don't get me wrong. We do too. We've been known to bring in random stats. However, some stats are better than others. Some bits of information, of course, are better than others. And, while it's great to talk about stuff and we always need content, of course, in general, most stats don't give us edge. And that's the problem with looking at something like the pound or any of these markets at the moment. Can we get edge off? Does it do anything to us? And I don't know if it does. I can't get any edge off this chart. Might be interesting, might be cool to talk about it, but I can't get edge off it, if you know what I mean. Don Vito says, Tesla has many tools to increase demand if they want. Yeah, that's true. They could do that. Rock Dog says, how about BTC proxies miners like CLSK, Hive, etc.? It's just not my speciality, Rock Dogs. I don't understand these companies. And the problem with them is, well, I think you can make money from trading these BTC miners and proxies and other things. I just don't like them. And you know what I don't like about them? Purely the governance. If you think about these companies, how many of them have busted up? How many of them have been unscrupulous and dodgy and I mean, look, literally, you could be buying into some dude in a basement in like some warehouse in the middle of nowhere, just with a bunch of computers, and then suddenly a tornado rips it. I mean, I know it's not that simple, but you know what I'm saying, yeah? That's what could happen to you. You might be investing without you knowing. This guy has his farming network sitting in a tornado field. And just one day you're thinking, "Oh, that's a nasty tornado." You're watching Tornado Hunters on Discovery Channel. I don't know if that's still a show over. It's probably not a show in America anymore. And then you see, "Wow, this is a big tornado." And it just wrecked your hive or whatever. It's gone. Mohammed says, one thing I've learned from you and on my own experience is to only use stats if the price action agrees 100 bazillion percent, as it can give you extra confirmation. It gives you confidence. It gives you confidence, man. That's absolutely correct. Confidence is key when you're going to hold a trade for a period of time. Now, you could say, oh, the trend is bullish on the S&P 500, hold the longs, everyone. Hold the longs. We haven't seen a daily trend change yet, blah, blah, blah. Most of us won't be able to hold it if we're traders because we won't have the confidence to necessarily hold these positions through unclear times or uncertainty. And that's why sometimes the best investor would be the one that literally buys a stock, quality stock, at a decent price, like Warren Buffett says, walks off, comes back in like 7 years and says, whoa, my account's quadrupled. Fantastic. Great comment, Mohammed. Hi, Tom. Can you please contrast two stocks in the same sector? Yeah, we can have a look at that, I guess. FIS and FL. FIS. Ality. Looks like it's got a little break up, doesn't it? This one. Little break up after some, what's that volume like? Okay. FIS. Yeah, it looks like it's got a nice break up. Let's go to the weekly again. Man, it's been brutalized. Very brutalized. And what was the other one? I lost it now. FL? Is it FL? Foot Locker. That looks terrible. That looks absolutely terrible. No one needs shoes anymore, okay? We're going to use Apple VR and the metaverse. We don't need shoes. We don't buy Foot Locker anymore. Yeah, that looks absolute crap. I don't know if these are actually contrast stocks, but that looks absolutely terrible. No FI. Oh, well, Foot Locker looks absolute crap. So we're not going to look. FI? That's just a momentum style trade. So basically breakout to new high. I don't know if this is the same one, but yeah, look, as an investor, you've got to say this has probably the best elastic demand. It's very strong. The other ones are buy the dip style, value. I'm looking for, three banger kind of trade. This is more of a momentum, stronger stock doing a lot better. Clearly, this is the winner stock at the moment, at least what the market believes. I mean, it's in an all-time high in a not all-time high style market. So it's a better stock. It's clearly a better company. The market believes. But the other one is more of a value buy. This one is more of a, maybe it's an investment for some people because they believe it's good. It's got that elastic demand component. So if they both drop 10% tomorrow, I have a question for the chat. What would you buy? They both drop 10% tomorrow. This and whatever that other trash was. Which one? I'm not going to get a sponsorship from that other company. I don't know what it was, but anyway, which one would you buy? This one, 10% down, or the other one? I buy this one because this one has better momentum, has nice elastic demand if they both dropped. Anyway, just a thought process. So the markets are coming in bullish and we've got gaps on the upside. Now, we didn't answer that question from before, but in general, when markets were going up before and markets were opening with negative, that was actually usually a pretty positive sign because you're getting those gap kind of downs and then you're filling them. during bear markets, or at least markets that push down, oftentimes you'll get rallies from the futures into sells. Today, I don't think is that consequential. I do expect that this is where the bears sit, which is around 45.62-ish. And I do expect that the bulls sit in around 45.20-ish and 4,500. In between there, I would call that trash trade. And why I say it's trash is because there's probably money to be made in the 2-minute, 5-minute, 3-minute charts, that kind of thing. But from a 2-hour perspective, very hard to deem anything else. And I just think, yeah, it's very, very difficult to figure out too much there. We also know that we don't have Google and Microsoft earnings just yet. Here's a good question coming in from, well, that's a good point, D-Stripe Day. Neither, because I don't know anything about the companies. Victor Ben says, I just have a question about your magma. From what I see, it's just a chart that plots sum of all prices. At least that's in Thinkorswim. It does not seem to create an actual chart. Please take a look. No, it creates a chart of those as like a combo. And what that means is it just shows you that think of them as the momentum trade behind this entire rally. So if those internal core components, kind of like I'm saying semiconductors, the one I'm watching really, and XLY versus XLP, but those stocks rallied us. So if they start to weaken and money flow comes out, it's a precursor. The market's tipping over and going to show a little bit of rejection. Let's have a look through some of those stocks now. Here's Apple. Look at the weekly. Rejection style pin bar. Close above here. The bulls will be very happy. Amazon, target reached and absolutely tagged. Google, weird sell distribution. Don't know what's going on there. Microsoft, my favorite stock, horror candle. Does it close? Horror candle, guys. Any momentum, we want to see momentum more towards the short. If that changes trend from that kind of candle, could be a significant deal. But everyone sees these pins, yeah? Look at these pins. They're massive. NVIDIA, nothing yet. Doubling top kind of action. You can see on the 2-hour how it looks. That is a double top pattern if you like pattern trades. Nothing really to write home about, though, on that one. Let's have a look at Meta. Meta, double top. Rejects after making a new high. Doesn't quite fill the gap that everyone was looking for and gets that big double top in. I think this stock is ridiculous, but that doesn't, it's my opinion, just like your opinion in markets, probably doesn't mean much. We're about 12 minutes off the market. It's the price action we need to look at and the trend. So at this stage, the trend is up, but we did break some serious levels here on Meta. Does anyone actually think Meta's worth $300? Don Vito says he wants to buy Foot Locker. Good luck with that one, sir. Tozzy says no effects from Nasdaq 100 rebalance today. Well, I think the effects were that massive volume we saw. I'm not sure if it's real. We saw this sell on Friday. They were the point, and they kept ramping and ramping and ramping their stocks a little bit, and they just sold it all in portion. So Friday was actually the big trade for it, and Thursday. Sorry if I just dropped them, by the way. Jonathan says Meta isn't worth 250. Yeah, I don't think it's worth this number. I don't know what Twitter and X is. Magnat over magma. Zamari says, Tom, do you hedge long-term investments? Generally, no. There's only one time I'll ever hedge them, and it generally doesn't happen very often. We're talking multiple years apart, like 7 years apart, based on cyclical events more than anything else. But I'll tell you this. If the bond yields invert and it's at certain times of the times of cycles, I'll pay a lot of attention. My audio is breaking up. Yeah, sorry, I am probably disconnecting a little bit here. I'm off the phone net today, so I do apologize, guys. Worth what the market is willing to pay. That's correct, David. Thank you also to the almost 1,000 people joining us here for the Monday open stream. Appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you very much. Sean says, look, Mark Zuckerberg, he's surfing, doing jiu-jitsu, not indications of running a company. There has to be good news coming out of Meta. Well, look, they got Threads, guys. Meta has all the users. There is a way to make money off that. I don't know. I barely use Facebook. The number of ads on Facebook is driving people away. Yeah, I haven't used in ages. Killer Manzilla says, can you please have a look at CSL? Now, the stream will not like this stock, sir. This is a Australian stock for anyone that doesn't know, and it actually almost nailed my targeting the other day, Friday, 14th of July. You can see here it nailed down to 257. My point was pretty much sitting in the 250 to 240s. I do like CSL around these levels, though I think it could still swipe a low. So I'm kind of looking for this. And then like that. I like this level, though. It's a good level for CSL. Australian healthcare style stock, getting a bit of that recovery. So some things that we can recap for the 900 people that are coming in. Defensive moves. Every market, XLV, XLP, XLU all saw big rotations. We saw large trades through quite a few stocks. In particular, we saw Pepsi do very well with a big trade in it. Don't know what was going on. Created a long leg doji. This was one that you can see with the volume. Massive volumes. We see Pepsi doing a big trade due to the whole Nasdaq stuff, I guess, or something. I don't know. Then we go over here to Costco, big trade, again rebalancing, but still big trades coming through. XLU, XLV, XLP, all breaking out of new highs. Could that be more of a rotation? We're certainly paying attention to it. Key levels to put on your charts for the week ahead for the US 500 for everybody that's been watching. 4,500, mark it out, set an alert below, just so you know if that happens. Also, I think marking out 45.64-ish will be important level, maybe a little bit higher at 45.66, see how the market interacts with that area. And if we end up getting a close high above 45.82, as the gentleman said before at the start of this stream, we're probably moving up to around 4,650 relatively quickly to fill a gap that was left on the SPY over in that point. US 2000 doesn't help us with much. We hit almost 2000. Then we just kind of sold off on those highs. So again, we've had one sell off at this point. Well, one technically over here, 2, 3, and then we've now got 4. Each time it's been selling off a little bit earlier, and this has been targeting those points. So critical area. Dow is not weak. DAX is weak at this stage, which is the German 40. Volatility is pitiful. Even though it looks like it's big, it's pitiful. You can see it here, though it's spiked into today. And this week's really just bad news. So Monday, don't expect a huge, massive trade. I think Tuesday is probably the big one. And that's thanks to Microsoft and Google. And Google's the one I'm watching. I want to see what this ad spend is like. Consumer discretionary is looking quite weak. Let's go through some more individual stocks that we think could be running. Defensives are mostly on the charts. I noticed PayPal got a big transaction through it last Friday as well. Again, it hit my TP. We managed to do it, guys. We talked smack about PayPal for what seemed like too long. Probably was too long. It was like 2 months. What did 2 months net us? 16.36%. Is that good? Is that good, chat? 16.36%. Could have made 6% on Starbucks in like 2 weeks. PayPal continues to disappoint me and annoy me. But yeah, the stock hit the target. Zoom hit first target and second target. So I guess that's good. I think I'm done with that stock now. Don't care about it again. But Zoom is there. Cybersecurity stocks, interesting. I would mark 76.13 on something like a net. Very interesting potential here from a technical level. You can see the highs. You can see this big rejection, similar to Microsoft, Apple, all of those. But the potential of a rally out of this is much higher. So Cloudflare, yeah, big rejection there. Actually a nice Wyckoff style base. No real steel, there's a steels in here, but no secondary steel. SOS, obviously what looks like a breakout for a flag, and then it failed. So key level to be watching. Jason Smith says, I like Zoom. Yeah, I mean, it's a good base, but it's such a trash company. We've already talked about it at length. We faded that beastie years ago with Roku and everything else. How is our friend at Roku going? If anyone's been an OG member of the community, you know I hated this stock so much when it was at $500-ish. Yeah, so they all look pretty similar. I mean, if hyper stocks do go, the likes of Roku, Zoom, etc., will rally through. But yeah, this one's 3 days earnings. I'm going to watch it this week and see what happens. They've all got bases on them. So as an investor, you couldn't really hate the price. As a trader, though, you'd be like, ah. Trading, investing, different things. Ark loves Roku. Yeah, I know. But they got smoked down to 500. Look, I'm not shorting these stocks, by the way. I wouldn't short Zoom. I wouldn't short Roku at these levels. And I couldn't bring myself to do it. That's insane. Why would I short something that I think is basing? I just don't really like the companies. Will they potentially have 100% in their name in the next couple of years? Yeah, for sure. Are you still playing with Snow? Yeah, I still think Snow is interesting. So this is another, as you correctly mentioned, Snow and Intel are two of the others that we've followed. Looking for a 194 break for momentum to come into Snow. Very similar to Net, actually. A lot of rejections through what could be an SOS of a Wyckoff setup. We're about 3 minutes off the market open here. Our end phase is another one a few people have been bringing up. We didn't manage to get a nice, we faded the weekly, unfortunately. You can see it. We had a really nice daily close here, and then it's pulled back. Bit disappointing here from end phase. It's another one like Zoom and so many others that if the hyper stocks go, this should theoretically be going. All right, we're 2 minutes off the market open. If you can smash that like button, it does help us out. We've gone through Tesla, we've gone through Netflix. This week's focus is, of course, Microsoft. Be watching. Let's go over to our it's gold. Here it is. So these are the options expected flows. So basically, this is a good little give a shout out to Earnings Watchers. This is a small little Twitter. If you want to give him some love, go on over there and support him, I guess. The thing I like about it is it gives options expected moves. Now, I know that there are other earnings services that do this, but they don't put it in a nice chart for us like this initially. So we've got Spot and we've got Snap Tuesday, 10 and 11%. 2 minutes till the market opens, guys. Meta, oh, wow, 9 to 10% move. Zuckerberg's jiu-jitsu is about to either kick our ass or maybe kick us all the way into the moon. Then we've got Google and Microsoft, 6%. GE as well. Pretty large volatility here. Intel, 7% move expected by the options market. And then, of course, you got your McDonald's and your Coke and your kind of boring stocks down there. The ones that I like, your Colgates, your Cokes. Things that I get excited about 2-3% moves on those, but you guys don't like them, so whatever. Ivan says, Tom, will Netflix go to 462, 463 before it goes to 411? Good question. Maybe we'll get time to look at that later. Qs. Yeah, we can have a look at the Qs, but we did Nasdaq already. Basically, the Qs have a lot of gaps, and we know this. We get a small 2-hour change of trend when we busted below this low here. We already talked about it. Yeah, the Qs are, I think the S&P is probably the one to watch, but the Qs are starting to look a little bit weak, and it's just because those big tech stocks got these rejection candles on them. All right, guys, we just opened. Let's have a look. We bought the rally in all the tech stocks here into the open. So pretty much everything's a sea of green. I do expect this to be this way. Key level to watch is 45.64, I think it was, for the US 500, to see how it interacts with that zone, because that's where we saw the selling through Friday and through previous sessions. You can see it here. I've marked it out. And yeah, I think that's probably a pretty critical level. See how it interacts. We now have a gap to the open upside, so that could get filled through the session as we fade. Earnings is the big one, though, so it's not. I don't know if we're going to get like a blitzing market today to the upside. I think it could just kind of find maybe a 0.6, 0.7% rally, maybe see some selling and flat, something like that. Ding, 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 ding. Exactly, Matthew. Thank you very much. No probs. Barber has been developing a mild uptrend. I think it's being held back because of slowing of the Chinese economy. 100%, Kevin. If you look at CQQQ, which is something we've been looking at, market rallying to that point, by the way, this is still struggling. And I like the zone a lot. By the way, as an investor, I look at this zone, I go, oh man, if that was the American market, I'd be like so excited for it. But it's just not doing anything. And I think it's lethargic until we get the stimulus packages. And I don't expect them until October. Truly Messiah says we are going into August, September. Markets will be dropping. Traditionally, yes. I just don't know how many people are talking about that. Truly, and everyone in the chat, how many people are talking about Tesla down here? How many people are talking about the fact that these next couple of months are weak? Usually less people, the better it is. And I don't know sometimes. People saying utilities down. Oh, they're just all flat, man. Nothing wrong with having defensives flat. It's only the morning. It's everyone just got paid on Friday and they've got to lose their money at their slot casino known as the market in Monday morning. Oz says my whole group. You mean our group, Oz? 10-cent Murphy. If I was looking for AMD investment entry, what should that look like? It's a good question. You've got to make your own decision, of course, on AMD. I don't really like these candles I talked about before. Probably the areas would be somewhere around that. I mean, obviously the 90s would be good. Low 90s, that would be pretty good. Because it did break. It based, and then some people call this like that. Like a cup and handle kind of formation. I don't really care about cup and handle, but I do think that this doesn't look exactly ideal. If you were scared to miss out, you'd probably be needing to see what happens here as well from a close perspective, especially weekly close. Weekly close above 124, 123 would be huge. Thoughts on Nat Gas if we go bear? I haven't checked Nat Gas. Are we actually starting to struggle on natural gas? One second. Still think it's basing. So no changes on my thoughts on natural gas. Yeah, no changes there. Yeah, no worries, Oz. Thank you very much. So yeah, our thoughts here are wait for Microsoft and Google earnings, read the reports, probably if you haven't read a report, maybe read a bit of the forward guidance this year. Maybe we'll do it together on our daily show. Could be good. Just have a look into the forward guidance. Multiples are still extended around 19.5 forward PE. I will update you as earnings continue. So after this week, we'll get our new updated forward earnings. We'll figure out whether the market's super cheap or super expensive. I suspect we'll still be sitting on 19 to 20 PE though, which is still a little bit high. CQQQ I do like in the future. I just don't like it right now until we get that stim. And markets, of course, finding that bit of relief after a Thursday and Friday sell. Defensive's not really very strong here this morning. Definitely lagging the market. Hyper stocks looks like based on this quick watch list here, they've been dropping as well, and or at least struggling, and there's nothing coming from the bonds market. So guys, I think that probably ends our Monday. Thank you so much for being a member of the community. If you are one, big shout out to all of you out there that have been doing that. If you subscribe, thank you very much. And if you've been smashing that like button, you're a legend. So appreciate each and every one of you. I look forward to meeting quite a few of you if you are coming to our conference, which will be literally, it's already on sale if you want to buy pre-tickets. We'll have some amazing CMT members there. You got some people with some serious billion-dollar expertise. And I think everyone that comes will really enjoy the community. So that's, of course, in Vegas. And I will be also in Manhattan at one point as well for anyone that's in New York. If they're interested, I might do a little catch up with a couple of you. It'd be nice to meet some people in the community. And you know what? I met a lot of people in Australia from, YouTube here. And you guys are cool. It's awesome. It's great to meet you. It's great to see everyone in there get involved. And the thing about trading, and you'll agree with me, is that often it can be lonely. It can be a little bit boring as well when you're waiting for those right opportunities. And it's awesome to network and to, of course, meet people of like mind. Because like any hobby, whether it's a hobby or job or anything, It's always nice to meet people and share that common experience. So I do look forward to all of that. Thank you very much. If you want some free cheat sheets, pin message. Otherwise, we'll see you next Monday for another live stream. I'll see you tonight after the Monday close. And you know what I'm pumped for? I'm pumped for Microsoft earnings and Google, because I would like to see this market give us a little bit of mean reversion. Come on, guys. It's not that hard, you know. We just want 20. We just want the 20 moving average weekly. That's all we want. Otherwise, we'll have to go and, you know, trail around in gold for a bit, and of course, look at these hyper stock Zoom and PayPal stocks again. But for now, they hit our targets, so we're just basically sitting here looking at defensives and saying they look pretty good. Unusual volumes through so many stocks. Will it continue? Watch out at the end of today. I'll be tracking, I'll be watching, and I will report it to you guys. Thank you so much. You have a great day. Bye for now. See ya.